Hey everyone, hi, this is Turnit from Blood, Sweat, and Wax, the podcast. I appreciate you guys tuning in and checking out my very first Turnit's Takes episode. Really, these are intended to be really short videos of me just talking about different topics that are important to myself, the Blood, Sweat, and Wax crew, and to the hobby in general. Today's topic, really important. I want to put this out there because there's a lot of new collectors that are just getting into the hobby. Shill bidding. What does it mean? Why does it happen? And I'm going to walk you guys through some examples. And a lot of these are really recent. This is kind of like, if you're a buyer or seller on eBay of sports cards, you've run into this for eons, it seems like. It's not exclusive to the UFC card market, but I just want to put this out there as a PSA and to educate you all on why this is out there and what you can do to protect yourself. Now, shill bidding, what is it? Shill bidding essentially is anyone or any account on eBay that is bidding up an auction to raise its price without the intent of ever paying for that item. This could be done on the sell side. This could be done on the buy side. On the buy side, why would people do this? They might be doing this because they want to raise the comps on a card or cards that they have in their own set, and they are trying to sell it privately, maybe off the marketplace, maybe on the marketplace, but they are trying to artificially inflate the prices of different cards. That is possible. That happens, and there are obvious forms of people doing this, and there are less obvious forms. We'll walk through those in a second, and how you can protect yourself as well as a seller. Now, there are also sellers selling their cards that might be shill bidding their own auctions, and that results in you paying more for a card than you would normally want to pay for it or should pay for it. That is not the market price. If somebody is shill bidding a card, that is not the market price. Maybe they didn't time it right. Maybe they timed it in an awkward time. They didn't promote it. They didn't market it for whatever reason. They're not happy with the price, which that happens a lot. Sometimes you just don't win every auction. It really depends on timing a lot of the times, but they're either using a friend's account or they're using a brand new dummy account. The dummy accounts are easy to spot. We're going to look at those today. And any account that I show today doesn't necessarily mean that they're guilty. I cannot prove it without a shadow of a doubt. Now, non-paying buyers, I can certainly prove that, and we'll walk through an example of that. But the other ones, we'll walk through obvious examples of shill bidders on auctions that are potentially driving up the price and making me pay more for it than I would want. And I'm not calling out these sellers specifically. I don't know if they're guilty or not, but I just want to point this out. I'll leave it to viewers to recognize and kind of pass judgment on it, if you will. So let's get right into it. Enough of me just kind of talking here. Let's go through some examples. Now, here's one. This is a Leon Edwards 1/1 Black Disco Prism from debut 2021 select. Very nice card. It's a 1/1. Leon is currently champ. I won this auction for $311. Now, I think this card's probably worth a lot more than that. So the fact that it was even shill bid maybe is a statement on the card market itself. But I won this back in May, and I want to kind of walk through why I think that there's shill bidding going on here. Okay, so I paid $300 for this card, as you can see here. And what you'll notice when we look at, and actually I'm jumping ahead too quick here. If we look at the right next to the price, you'll see in brackets here, it shows that you've got 16 bids. If I click on that, if I look down, it's going to show me that leading up to the end of this auction, throughout the history of this auction, there was one bidder here with 0 rating. And they kept bidding this up and up and up. And up until the end of this auction, they bid it up to $306. And that's where I went over the top and I won the auction. Now, this in itself doesn't necessarily indicate a shill bidder. It could be somebody that is brand new to the eBay platform. But when it happens that there's 0 rating, they haven't gotten any ratings since May 21st. And if you click on the name of this person, it'll take you to their profile, and there's some interesting information here. So it's going to tell you that they only bid on one item. There were only 13 bids that they did for that one item, which we saw, and 100% activity with the seller. Now, this is probably the most clear-cut of an example of shill bidding that I've seen, unless there's some weird coincidence that this person only wanted this one card and they legitimately only ever registered to try to get this one card, and then for whatever reason they let go of it at $300. Now, you can tell me, like, what's more realistic here? What probably happened, right? And that's just one example. This person's now, it could be accounts. You'll see accounts that do this with 4, 5, 6, 7, 11, 13 rating. Sometimes people will want their shill bidding accounts to have much higher ratings so that it's less obvious. Sometimes what they do is they like to go and they like to bid on 20 or 30 other auctions with very low amounts very early in the auction because they know that those bids will never win. But when you go look at their metrics that we're looking at here, their 30-day summary, they're going to be a lot harder to spot because it's going to say that they're bidding on like 50 items with 30 different sellers. But the reality is that a lot of times these guys are lazy, and at least you can safeguard yourself by finding these really obvious cases right off the bat. All right, so there's one example. Now, if we look at this other auction that's currently going, I'm currently bidding on this Habib acetate out of 8. Beautiful card, on-card auto, game used shirt. I think we could even pinpoint where the shirt, what event the shirt was from. Now, I want this card. I think it's a very valuable card. But what I've noticed, and I've contacted the seller, I'm not calling them out here specifically. I don't know what's going on. The auction hasn't ended yet. But what I want to do as a buyer, the due diligence that I want to be doing, and what you can do as a buyer yourself to protect yourself, is let's click on these bids. And let's see if we see a similar pattern or something suspicious. And right off the bat, we see something egregious here, which is a 0 bidder going at the 500 mark. So this came in June 7th, so way earlier, and people have been bidding up and up and up and up, okay? Now, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe this guy came back on top, over the top, so to speak, but I've contacted them, so maybe they're now a little bit worried. I don't know. But if we click on this bidder with 0 rating, what do we see? We see again that they're bidding on 15 items with 53 bids. Now, this is another obvious example. Why? 100% of the items they're bidding on and the bids are all with the same seller. Same thing. Again, lazy shill bidding. These types of situations you can catch. And the problem is the more they learn about how we spot these things, then it's going to be a lot easier for them to correct their mistakes in the future. So are they going to ask their friends with accounts occasionally to shill bid for them for high value items? Probably. Are they going to be doing, other accounts with a lot more ratings with little items here and there just for the ability to better shill bid in the future? Probably, maybe. But at least for now, you can safeguard yourself by looking for these telltale signs. Okay. Now, this is if you're protecting yourself as a buyer. But what happens when you're a seller? And it gets a little tricky here when you're a seller, because if I look at an item that I just recently sold, so I sold this debut 21 Panini UFC Conor McGregor XR Asia Gold. This came out of the Tmall product. This was an Asia exclusive Chronicles product out of 2021. They did not make this in 22. I don't expect them to make this in 23. I love these cards. The Asia Golds are numbered to 8. There's no 101 versions of the Asias. And this sold for about 519 bucks, which I thought was a pretty respectable price here. And we see the buyer here. And I'm going to point out this buyer in a second, because what's interesting is they never paid and they canceled within a second of the auction ending. And that's not really that egregious yet. But what the reason that they gave me for canceling the auction is they said immediately within a second of the auction ending that they found another of the same exact card for cheaper, which is impossible, I know, because if you look at the market, they're just not available. There's no way that this card is out there. The pop is extremely low, and I actually know where some of these are. Now, I know this buyer to be a big time seller as well. I know that they sell a lot of Asia Golds. So my immediate suspicion was that they're probably trying to shill bid similar auctions, and they just got caught, meaning that they were trying to shill bid the price up. They thought that the price would end up ending at auction at higher, and they ended up being the winning buyer, which obviously they didn't want. They didn't want the card. They just wanted comps for their own cards, and they immediately canceled it. And they said, hey, I found another offer right now. Okay, now the reason that I know that's not true also is if we look at their bid activity, it's not like they bid at it last second and they ended up winning and then they changed their mind. This person, if I look at the auction here and I look at the bids, what you'll notice is that this buyer here was bidding on this throughout the entirety of the auction. So they've been bidding on this for days and days. And then that's not the only thing. So sure, maybe once in a while, somebody does make a big mistake, or they truly, didn't intend to buy this and then they want to cancel. That could be true. But I had a feeling something else was going on, that there was a pattern. And here's what you need to do as a seller. And a lot of times during your auction, when it's going, you can actually click on the people that are bidding and do some investigatory work. And I highly recommend it. This helps prevent a lot of times from auctions being non-paying auctions. But with the ratings that we see here, I didn't think that these buyers were suspicious necessarily. But let's dig in a little bit more. And I recommend, again, that you do this as a best practice. If I click on this guy's account, or gals, although in this case, I do know it's a guy. And then let me just prove that I'm smarter than the AI here. All right. So if I click on this and I go to his profile, I see that their rating's 99.8%. They only had one negative, which was about the condition of some cards. So on the surface, it doesn't really look like they're a shady person. But here's the thing. And the sellers on eBay, if you're a power seller, you already know this. You cannot leave bad feedback or negative feedback for a buyer. You can report non-payment. Theoretically speaking, if a buyer doesn't pay within a certain amount of time, if you report them and they get reported for non-payment a certain number of times, they get banned from the platform. But if you know how eBay functions and you know how much time you have allotted before you actually get flagged by eBay, you can abuse this system as a buyer and not really have it affect your rating. But how can us as sellers combat this besides reporting? What you'll notice is that I left a comment here. It's positive because it's all that I could do. And you'll see it says, avoid at all costs, shill bidder, non-payer, will cancel one auctions as he sees fit. Now, I am not the only person, and you'll have to do some digging here. You'll have to be vigilant. This is a repeated pattern with this buyer. If we go down further, if you scan through these, a lot of these are good. They're buying, they're selling, no big issues. Again, this was one that they probably didn't intend to have a problem. But if I keep going, what I'm going to notice is that by a few pages in, I ran into reports. Here we go. Here's one. Red flag. Buyer doesn't pay, makes offer, doesn't pay, or answer any messages. Okay, there we go. Here's another red flag. Again, not reflected in the rating. Here's another one. If we keep going further, let's see here. Maybe it's the next page. Okay. Smooth transaction. Okay. Canned responses. A lot of these are just automated, by the way. And yes, I went this deep into it because I figured this was a pattern, and he's kind of selectively choosing when to not pay and when to bid things up. Here we go. Three ratings here. Just another non-paying bidder. Just another non-paying bidder. Just another non-paying bidder. Okay. And then if I keep going, I think there was some other ones here as well. I think, let's see here. Anyway, you get the point. I can't find the other one. There was like a really verbose long paragraph that somebody left. But anyway, the case is, this is a pattern. This is not an accident. This is another person shill bidding, again, for comps, for other reasons, who knows. But you as a seller, this costs you time, 7 or 10 days or 5 days, or however long your auction is. It costs you money. And as you know, as a seller, if you're a lot of times looking at your inventory, you want to be able to sell things with confidence. This kind of wastes your time and your money here. So anyway, be on the lookout. I'm sure there's other tips and tricks that I'm missing here when it comes to shill bidding, but protect yourself as a buyer or a seller on eBay. Please let me know your thoughts. Leave some comments. Subscribe, follow us, Blood, Sweat, and Wax. Great podcast. We always love your feedback. Thank you, guys. This was a Turnit take. Many more to come.